Hello Minecraft fans and fellow Christians. Today I'll be covering Galacticraft and how you will go to the stars. Now first, I must warn you that Galacticraft is pretty bad about requiring resources, and lots of them. So we might as well cover first what you'll be needing. This is raw silicon. It's pure block. Just craft 9 raw silicon into this. This is aluminum, and it's pure block, tin, and copper. I'll introduce oil later. And these are the first 3 machines you'll be needing. The first you'll want to make is this coal generator, which you can craft like so. This is aluminum wire, which is crafted like so. Any color wool will do. And you can upgrade it like so to heavy wire. There's a slight energy boost for the sort of darker blue kind of machines if you use heavy wire. But anyway, at first I'll show you how to use it. When you give it coal, it'll have a little flame animation, like so. Takes a little while to heat up, and then it starts producing Galacticraft joules, or GJ. Joules is a scientific measurement of energy, and it'll reach a max of 120, which is pretty decent as far as Galacticraft goes, but anyway. And these holes are what you have to worry about. Red means output of energy, and green means input. So putting aluminum wire like so allows the coal generator to output energy to the green socket. And this is a circuit fabricator. You will be needing that to make some important parts later, called wafers. And this is how you craft it. Oh, and later we'll be using fluid pipes for liquids, and possibly even gases. And you'll need one of the wafers to make a compressor. Now, this is just a basic wafer. Oh, and if you're going to use an anvil, it has to be a practically new one. A damaged one will not do. Now, let me introduce how to make wafers. You use a redstone repeater along with one of each of these. Well, okay, 2 raw silicon, and this will make an advanced wafer, typically for the more advanced machineries. A plain redstone torch will give you the basic wafers that I already illustrated. You'll get 3. So, in a way, it's quantity versus quality. Now, that will be illustrated further later. Now, these blue solar wafers are, as you probably guessed, solar energy from these solar panels. You can use these wafers like so. You have to use all 9 of them. And this will be the full solar panel. And along with a steel pole will help you make a basic solar panel. And, well, that's if you use a basic solar panel and basic aluminum wire. An advanced one requires an advanced wafer and heavy aluminum wire. Now, let me explain how to make steel, though. This is one of the reasons why you'll need the compressor that I mentioned before. If you want to compress metal, you have to put 2 ingots of it in there. This is compressed aluminum, tin, and copper. And this is just the basic one. You'll be able to make something better later. And that's how you make compressed iron, as well as pretty much any other metal in a compressed version. Now if you want steel, on the other hand, you have to compress it with coal. Now if you used ancient warfare steel or something, you would just use 2 ingots of that particular kind of steel to make this steel. And one of the other alloys that you'll be making is bronze. An alloy is a type of metal made from other metals. And there you have bronze. Now, back to the solar panels. Now, the one on the right here with a slight tilt to it is the advanced one, and this is the basic one. What's the difference? Energy output. As a result of this one being able to face the direction of the sun when this is up. Now, this is technically what's called a multi-block structure. You only have to place the bottom part here, but it turns into this 3x3 area with an extension. And let me illustrate some of the differences. This is 34. It can technically reach the same max energy that the advanced one reaches, 44. However, this one can stay with more energy collecting longer. And you can actually output to these energy clusters. This is the basic one, and this is the more advanced one. Let me show you how to craft them. First, you'll need a couple of batteries. And this is the basic one. 3 batteries and 6 compressed steel. However, this one requires 4 of the basic ones. So yeah, it can be pretty expensive. However, if you were to, say, watch my Aroma's Mind Dimension video and figure out, hey, I can put these solar panels there and have solar energy for infinity, why would I need to bother with the advanced one? That's a fair point, and really you don't need to bother if you're going to do that. But there is still, if you're not going to do that, then you have to worry about the quantity. You see, placing these out in the area and using them instead of the resource chickens for coal and all that, you would need far more of these to produce the same amount of energy as these. You would sort of need, like say, I used to put my solar panels on the walls before I had glowstone and all, and I would allow them to sit on the wall and collect energy. If I use just these, I would need 3 times the amount of space on my wall to actually collect the same amount of energy. So you're not only saving space, but you're also getting more energy in the process. Now, on to the next part. I mentioned that you would be using a better version of the compressor, an electric one. It's like the original one, but you can just simply use energy. That's the only difference. You can use coal. Well, coal here, that's the only thing. Now, how do you craft it? You get the old compressor that you had, along with these materials, and you can craft it. I typically prefer just to use resource chickens to infinitely produce energy with coal generators. Now, this is the thing that takes up a lot of energy. You refine oil into fuel, rocket fuel. You can craft canisters to hold oil and fuel. However, for some reason you can't pick up oil that you find underground with the canisters. You have to use buckets for that. And here's how you craft an empty canister. This is just a tin canister which is crafted like so. And this is an oxygen collector. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I guess I should cover oil a bit more. Remember my bacteria video? Well, if you didn't see it, you can use this replacer bacterium to mass produce objects and liquids even. Along with floppers, you can mass produce this much easier. Now, the one thing is that the oil gets stuck here, and you need a stack of buckets plus 10 or 26 total to collect what's stuck here. Tom, I told you to stay here. You're not going to be able to go outer space. There's no add-on or anything that'll let you be able to use the breathing equipment. And I'll explain that later. But anyway, now here you have to input the energy through the top and input the oil through this black hole. The hoppers up there have to be facing this hole. And these are tanks, fluid tanks. And you craft them like so. And you can refine oil by having an input through the hole and output here. Now personally, I mass produce the oil and refine it so I can actually just use the empty canisters. You can technically use the bacterium to replace and create more fuel instead of having to refine it, but the canisters can deal with something smaller than 1,000 millibuckets. 1,000 millibuckets equals a whole bucket, and if it's say 500 millibuckets, buckets won't work essentially. Now back to the oxygen collector. It's crafted like so, with some more things: an oxygen fan, concentrator, and vent. Those are crafted like so. Here's the fan, vent, and concentrator. You'll need a lot of those before this is over with. Now this is an oxygen storage module. Just if, say, there's a power outage and you're depending on oxygen, then you can have this going for a while just in case something happens. Oh yes, I guess I should have the recipe. You need oxygen tanks, which brings me to the next topic. There are 3 versions, and each of them requires specific colored wool. This is the smallest one, the medium, and this is the heavy, biggest one. Each of these are made to hold oxygen for you. If you're in survival mode, you have to go to your inventory and click this button that looks like it has clear glass on it. And this will show you where you can place your space equipment. I've got infinite oxygen tanks in here just for the sake of the illustration. Oxygen gear that connects my oxygen helmet or mask to the tanks. And this is a parachute. And this is a frequency module. It allows you to hear things. And for those that need to hear attacking mobs and so forth, that'll be useful. Although it's not absolutely mandatory. Oxygen mask, gear, and for the parachute you'll need 3 canvases and then 3 string. You can actually dye the parachute as you wish. Now, how do you fill the oxygen tanks? You have to use a compressor. That compresses the air from the oxygen tank and or the module here, and you craft it like so. Now, let's say you accidentally crafted one too many oxygen tanks and you want to empty it. The decompressor can do just that. It's crafted like so. Now I typically don't need the decompressor, but it's just there if you want. Now, one of the things you'll need later is thermal cloth, so you can craft thermal padding armor. This is just the tier 1. I've got a sort of grayish tier 2 version on me now. This is just where it goes. Some planets are either too cold or too hot for normal people to be in. And if you want to survive on those planets, you'll need thermal cloth to help survive the temperatures. Now, no, it doesn't act as a flame retardant or anything of that sort. Oh, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Now, this is a NASA Workbench, which is used for making your rockets. Now, it's crafted like so. And these are the first rocket parts you'll be needing. Although the chests are optional, they're for extra storage if you want to store things on your rocket rather than just your inventory. That was pretty useful before I had backpacks and all. Now this is heavy duty plates, and you use them to make the nose cone along with pretty much everything else involved in rockets. I sort of showed the recipe earlier. Compressed steel, then aluminum, and then bronze, in that order. Sorry, it's not flexible in that respect, but anyway. Now if you so choose, you can still use the other compressor for that, but anyway. And the next part. These are the rocket fins. And this is the engine, the part that accelerates the rocket. Now, another important feature I mentioned is that you'll need glowstone torches. In our space, torches won't have any air, and sort of like I was telling Tom earlier, mobs won't typically have air to breathe either. So if you want to be able to see in our space, you'll need a source of light. And to have that source of light, you need glowstone torches that will light up the area. Now sadly, they're not the greatest. They don't provide much light. I guess I repeated myself right that back there. Sorry. But anyway, you can shift click the parts into the crafting recipe if you so choose. Now, as previously stated, you don't absolutely need these, but they came in handy before. Yeah, I know, odd looking, but anyway. And sort of disproportionate size, but anyway. Now, another important thing to mention is this is the fuel loader. If you want to be able to go anywhere in your rocket, you gotta put fuel in this and hook up to an energy source. And this is how you make it. And it will take fuel from a canister or a bucket. And this is how you craft the launch pad. You'll get 9 of them, and you'll need all 9 of them. If you go off in the rocket, the launch pad will be taken with you. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Oh, yes. There's one thing I almost forgot. There are 2 ways you can actually fill an area, so that yourself as well as mobs can breathe without oxygen tanks. This is an oxygen bubble. I let an infinite battery and oxygen tank supply both air and energy to it. The radius from the oxygen bubble seems to be, machine, seems to be 9 blocks. From that stone brick to that stone brick is 9 blocks, and that's how far it can reach from the machine. And the blue field isn't a force field, it's just for illustrating how far it can reach. Now the one downside is that sometimes upon coming back from an area when the chunks haven't been loaded for some time, if you've been gone away for a while, it can actually sort of glitch out to where it thinks the bubble machine's off, even though it's directly saying otherwise at the machine. And hence, it will let the creatures that are in suffocate. So this is the biggest way to cover an area with air, but it's also glitchy. So you have to take the upside with the downside too. This is how you craft it. Oh, as for correcting the glitch, you have to break the block, the machine, and then place it back. And hopefully you will be able to heal wherever creatures are there. Now, if you want, you can turn the bubble off. Like, say, you have several of these and you don't want to keep on seeing blue bubbles. You can turn that feature off as you wish. Now, the second way is called the sealer, and I'll illustrate that when we get to my moon base. And you can access the rocket's inventory if you put at least one chest in there. It'll have varying amounts depending on how many chests you put in there. The max is 3. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into the unknown. I sort of like that, but anyway. Now, the one thing about the Tier 1 rocket is that it's the slowest of all the rockets that you can find, but I'll cut it short until about the time of the map. Now, here's the galaxy map. And in a Tier 1 rocket, I can only go to the moon of the overworld right here. But there are some planets that you won't be able to go to, sadly, unless you get an add-on that says otherwise. See how it says tier ? You can't go to that planet. Now, some are just simply a higher tier than what you have right now. And so far, beyond the asteroid belt, I don't think you can go to any of their planets. Unless you get an add-on that adds more planets, such as the one that adds this galaxy over here, the More Planets mod. Now it includes planets such as Diona, Chalos, which used to be known as Polaris in earlier versions, Phronos, Nibiru, maybe a couple others depending on the version, but anyway. If I can get over here, but anyway. Now, how do I go to the moon? You gotta double click the overworld and then click on the moon. And then click the launch button. Now you can let it sort of speed up just to get things a little faster if you want, but I wouldn't go much past 30. You have to slow down. Or otherwise your landing will be rather explosive. Now, upon landing, I suggest you take whatever's in here, along with your rocket and launch pad. Now, luckily, your rocket didn't use up all the fuel, but as you can tell, you don't have much left. It started off as 1,000 millibuckets, but now it's just down to this. And it's times like these I appreciate the empty canisters to save on fuel, but anyway. Now, since I'm in creative mode, I can just destroy it. But anyway, now as you can see, I've already got a moon base here. Now I might as well cover the sealer since I mentioned it earlier. It looks something like so. And you have to have solid blocks that recognize this in order to create an area that, well, it can actually seal. Like say if those glass planes weren't there, it would say area too big to seal. Well, let me just demonstrate that now. See, and in some versions, it actually create a sort of bunch of blue air particles that go up to the roof and go directly to where the hole was. Sadly, it doesn't do that in this version. I don't know why, but anyway. Now, you have to craft it like so. Not that complicated. Oh, and these are airlocks. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. This is an ambient thermal controller. If you don't want to constantly wear the thermal padding on a given planet, or if you want to be cautious in the event that you forget it, this will take care of that problem with the sealer. It'll balance out the temperature, but on some place like the moon, something like that isn't available. Now, this is the airlock frame. You make it sort of like a nether portal, but on one side you make the controller here. Now sadly, you'll need meteoric iron before you can do that, so you can't craft it on the overworld right away. However, the way you find it is by listening out for crashes. Now this is the worst case scenario as far as a crash landing for a meteorite. However, if you're lucky, it'll be like that one over there and not leave much damage. And that's one of the reasons why I prefer to make my places out of something like stone bricks, because these are rather blast resilient. Now as for energy, whoops. Okay, I'll just use creative mode. You can either use solar panels or coal chickens and coal generator. However, with the 8-hour day-night cycle on the moon, coal generators just may be the best thing to use anyway. You see, because this wouldn't last all 8 hours, but technically if you're not on the moon all those 8 hours, it doesn't matter. Now, as far as these sealable blocks, this one allows you to emit power, and this one allows you to send air through it. Oxygen collectors can collect oxygen through these leaves. Now I pipe in power through this side, and on the other side I have the fluid pipes leading from there into the sealable blocks. Now I have to craft them up with tin wall blocks. Any stone will do. And then I have to use fluid pipe, 2 tin wall blocks, and I can either use regular aluminum wire or I can use the heavy wire. As you can probably guess, I prefer the heavy aluminum wire, but anyway. Now, as to what it takes to make a base like this, all these kind of resources. Now, some of this can be, now the advanced solar panels are probably optional, but anyway, if you prefer the chickens. Now, the Mistcraft books, I use a Mistcraft book for every single base I've got on every planet. And So I don't always need the I don't actually need the fuel, but I've got a two-way home essentially. If something happens to a Mistcraft book, I've got a rocket, or whatever rocket I use to get to the planet, as well as the books. It's a dual backup system. Oh, and another thing about having a rocket out here. Like I've illustrated with that meteorite over there, if one happens to crash land and destroy the place, it could destroy wherever your rocket is. And on a planet like Venus or something like that, there are lightning storms. And hence, if you leave your rocket out, it can get destroyed and prevent you from getting home. I actually lost my rocket on Venus and had to use creative mode to replace it, essentially, because I kept respawning on the planet. So yeah, it's a problem. Now I might as well get ready and show you how to actually craft one of these bases. Oh, might as well get an axe. For world edit. Whoops. Okay, I'll just save some time and gather resources myself. Now, if you want a list of what you need before building a base on a given planet, here's a list. Now, as far as the armor and weapons, that's variable and based on what you want. But anyway. Okay, I forgot to mention the solar panels here, but anyway. Now, excluding these bricks on the ground, the base, it has an area, well, a width of 8 blocks and a length of 13. Oops, sorry. Okay, so it would essentially look something like that. Although it would help if I fill in the rest of the area. Now. Okay, that would be another meteorite. But anyway. Okay. Now this is where the airlock frame would be. Oh. It'd help if I had the whole thing down here, but anyway. I had something to increase my reach. As far, whoops, a little bit of lag, but anyway. Now the window here is optional, but that would be just for plain glass panes. Now if you have modded glass like up there from Tinker's Construct, you would have problems with the sealer recognizing as solid blocks. Sounds like a quote evolved skeleton. Just a skeleton with space gear essentially. Wait. Okay. Alright. Oh well. Okay, by this time all these will have been used up. Okay, that doesn't help. Oh well, at least you know what not to do. Now you're probably wondering why add this little area if it's enclosed. This is the part that maintains the opening and closing of these airlock frames, and hence why I need the redstone. Now I have to place a lever on the side that's going to have the controllers and redstone. Now here you're going to need a repeater that faces away from the controllers and a torch that will help keep this lit. Now this should help make things a little simpler. Okay. Now you have to have it opens on redstone so you don't turn that off. Now this should stay open for a while at least. And this will close. And stay closed until you press the lever. Oh, you have to press escape to get out of that little menu. Now when a lever is thrown, well, in the right spot of course, this will come on and turning this redstone lever on and turn that on to open it, and by default the redstone torch will turn off and hence close this. Just like that. So turning this on will let you out, and turning it off will let you in, essentially. Now to finish the main building. That's where the sealable blocks go. Now, I suggest you fill in this area with light just so you don't have a monster spawning creating problems. Oh, and another thing, you won't be able to use beds on a planet other than the overworld. Okay, maybe Fronos, that's the only other one with air. And that's just it. There's a message pop up that says you may run out of air if you try and use a bed. Now here's one tricky thing. For some reason I always had trouble getting the right holes facing the right directions. It's probably because I think like a left-handed person, but anyway, that's just me. It took me a while to get it right. Whoops. Huh, that was odd. Wait a second. Okay, I did that wrong. Okay, that's 4 of those. And optionally the coal generator. Yeah, okay. Oh, I forgot to mention. If you try and use something like speedy hoppers for this, eventually it'll generate a complete stack of coal in here, and the hopper will stop outputting to the coal generator and think it's full and permanently leave it alone, essentially. Now one more of these. Now in some of these, I'm telling you the bare minimum for a given type of block that you'll need, so you may or may not need more. I typically don't. even in the event that a meteorite comes close. Now, as far as this, the size of this is somewhat variable, but I typically try and have a radius of 2 leaf blocks surrounding a oxygen collector. It can be any leaves you so choose. Now when this is 2 blocks high, after it's 2 blocks high, I try and put the wire in and then place the oxygen collectors. Here we go. Okay. 2. Yeah, okay. I try to conserve on how many blocks I use. Now you can start them at partial production at this point, but it doesn't generate as much. So, don't forget about fluid pipes. They're so important. Don't know why I'm lagging more than normal today, but anyway. Okay, might as well. The extra jump ability coming from a less gravity planet is sort of beneficial at times, other times not so much. Lag. Okay. Technically, obsidian is harder and more durable than bricks, but I just don't like having a pitch black look. I just like the way the stone bricks look. Okay, I guess I can use world at this point. Just to shorten how long y'all have to watch. Now, normally I would have to crouch on top of these to try and get this right. Sorry, I forgot to do it earlier, but anyway. Let me get that right. I guess you'll just have to rely on putting on the next brick, essentially. Alright. Okay. Power and air are going in. Now to get in and not lock myself out in the process. Okay, now as you can see, you need a light source. And let me demonstrate the low lighting I was talking about. I have my brightness up. Doesn't do very much, huh? Now I think you can understand why I like the arc lamps. Oh, speaking of which, let me get a few. Sorry, even though arc lamps come from this mod, you can't craft them right away. You have to get to Mars for a resource from there. So you have to, at the very least, put up with it until later. Now the oxygen compressor, if you got the Mistcraft book, technically it's not absolutely necessary. Although technically it's just a convenience to not have to go back to the overworld just to refill your air tanks. Okay, working. Now, sadly, I don't like kind of see the back side of that, but that's the way it works. Now, you can technically place chests in here if you need them, and place the Mystcraft book here, and just simply put this book wherever you have your network of Mystcraft books at. Now, one wise thing is to have an ender chest that will be able to connect up with the rest of your inventory. Now, hopefully, you'll have linking books and all in here. That way you don't have to, well, possibly forget them. But anyway. Now, that completes how to finish a base. This is essentially what it looks like. It's a bare minimum as far as a base, but hey, it works. Now, the sealer can't do an area much bigger than this, but it works for this plan at least. If you want to use a bigger base or something like that, you probably either need to segment it into several small rooms that are sealed up, or you can use a bunch of those oxygen bubbles, which I previously stated though are somewhat glitchy. Now, what can you actually do on the moon? Well, aside from mining asteroids. Oh, I did forget to mention that these are red hot. If you touch them or stepping on them or something like that, you will get, well, you'll be set on fire, even though this place is set to not have air. So I don't see how you can be set on fire by just stepping near it or something. Now, this is a moon village with moon villagers. How they're supposed to gather homes, I don't know. Oh, here's one. You can trade with them. In the earlier versions, for whatever reason, you couldn't, though. Now, this is a workbench schematic, something that you can use in your NASA workbench. Now, if you got now the way to get a moon buggy schematic or NASA workbench is to fight the moon boss. And that he has his own dungeon. You have to look around for him. Now, luckily for them, I had already lit up the area. And, well, as far as sapphires, you can either sell things to them or find them underground. Oh, speaking of which, I'll go into spectator mode and show you some of the things you might find down below. Now, there aren't any moon dungeons nearby, but so that's a slight issue. Oh, right. It would help if I had night vision. Okay, you can find any ore that you would find on the overworld here. As far as gas, not so much, but anyway. There's a sapphire ore right there, just so you know. Looks sort of like emeralds. Now, there is one other thing. This is cheese ore. I've heard crazy rumors about the moon being made of cheese for whatever reason. But anyway, let me go to the surface and I can show you what you can do with it real quick. You can either use the cheese ore, well, sorry, you got mine it, but if you have silk touch, you can just smelt it. But I prefer using fortune. You can either use it to craft a slime ball with 4 sugar and green dye. Oh, I'm sorry, just sugar. But anyway. And then use 8 cheese curds and a bucket of milk and you can create a block of cheese. It acts sort of like a cake, as far as being able to place it and all, and eat it by right clicking. Or you can turn it into 6 cheese slices. And if you're really into this, you can actually craft hamburger buns with 2 wheat, bucket milk, and egg, and then grind up some beef and cook it in a furnace or something, and then voila, you can create yourself a cheeseburger. Never been a big fanatic. Bread is just fine for me in Minecraft, although in real life you can always find me like a hamburger just like anyone else. But anyway, now y'all are probably interested in the moon boss, and I've been taking up a long time covering the basics. Now, in the more recent versions, you can actually use something called a dungeon locator. Now, it'll go somewhat wonky on other planets. If you're in the overworld, it'll go bonkers. But you can either do it using creative mode, or just search up in just enough items. Voila, that's one way to avoid having to use commands to cheat and so forth. But anyway, it's somewhat irritating having to go to your inventory and keep checking every so often, but anyway. Now, it says that there is a moon boss in this direction. Oh, it'll help if I have this on. Another asteroid. Now, the moon boss dungeon, as well as pretty much any other planet dungeon. Sorry, I had to take a family call for a while, but hey, this is a dungeon. It looks something like so. Although somehow asteroids fell even though I haven't been here. But in any case, if you look on my mini-map, it'll look something like that. And it'll look like a big black, big compared to the rest of the others, it'll look like a big black spot. The other dungeons will be different colors, but anyway. Now, I can change the game mode 0 and show you how to fight in it. Now, normally I would just dig a set of stairs down and build the rest of the way down here, but anyway. Now, evolve skeleton. You can find various things in here. Oh, this is from that compressed steel that we saw earlier in the video. And this is an enchanted golden apple. Evolved Enderman. Pretty much anything with a space helmet and gear is considered evolved for whatever reason. Never mind. Your favorite creature and mine, the creeper. Said no one ever. Unless they were joking. Oh, this is raw meteoric iron after you mine from the asteroid block that falls down. When you smelt it, it looks like an ingot, and it only takes 1 meteoric iron ingot to to have a compressed pressure plate, essentially. Okay. Now here, this is the boss chamber, and in the more recent versions, he'll be able to respawn even after you defeat him, and you can keep getting on dungeon keys for that chest in the distance there, to the left of my cursor. Now here the boss is a giant with a skeleton with 2 bows. And he can either shoot or throw you up against the wall, and or possibly the lava. Now, one easy way to fight him is just to use a bow, but if you want to dish it out the hard way, just watch. You may want to turn the volume down if you haven't already. And voila, you get a bunch of experience and a key. Okay. Oh, whoops, wrong way. Don't know why it's so small. But anyway. Now, the first time you enter a dungeon, you'll typically get a moon buggy. But I already went through one of these dungeons before. So, you can get one of these. Tier 2 rocket schematics. Now, these chests, sadly, are one use only. You can spam and get the keys, but you really can't do much else with the keys, sadly. Now, this is going to be where I end the video. I'll talk about the moon buggy and electric furnaces, as well as how to get to Mars in the next video. So see y'all, and please don't leave it in the comments something about me being a porcupine. Now goodbye y'all.